So, all right, people. I'm sure people are going to trickle in. I'm sure people are going to see the notification that I'm online, and they're going to say like, "What the hell is happening?" Because I'm never online during this time. And that's totally cool. All right, so it should be working. That it's going to have your audio will come through. I'll make sure. I'll ask at one point just if my viewers are hearing you okay, but I think that we're going to be good to go. Yeah, see, here we go. See, somebody's already in here. What's up, Krabby?
Well, I really appreciate you streaming our interview. I can promise I do. I edit not liberally, but I edit liberally on myself. So, um, so the end product is going to sound a little bit different than what you guys are getting today.
Okay,
Oh, very
that's fine. Yep. See, there we go. That's why I will make sure that I turn you up. All right.
much.
All right. Go ahead.
And so, Dr. Mick, I'm assuming that's what we're going to have you go by right now.
Yeah, you can call me Ryan, but Dr. Mick is kind of how everybody knows me. So whichever you prefer, but Dr. Mick's fine. I guess it sort of fits what we're going to be talking about.
Where did Dr. Mick come from? I'm just going to start there because I'm curious.
Sure. Okay, so I'll give you the short version of it. So my gamer tag for the last, oh God, I don't even know how many years, has been Mickerelson. And that is a mixture of my actual last name and Phil Mickelson, who one of my very best friends told me I played golf like. And one day he just called me Mickelson, and I was like, that's a really good gamer tag. So I went with that. So then when I decided to start doing this, I said, well, I should probably put myself out there as doctor since I do have a PhD, and like that's kind of like going to be part of the credential that makes people want to pay attention to me and actually watch my stream. And so I'll go Dr. Mick. Because people would always call me Mick online and Xbox Live when they'd see my gamer tag or whatever. So I figured, cool, let's just go with Dr. Mick. And that was it.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Mick, so what you're on the show for today is to one, because I think what you're doing is really awesome here on your Twitch channel.
Thank
But
you.
two, I feel like there's not a lot of conversation about the intersection of mental health and video games. And I feel like you can speak on this much more than I can. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do that. But I really am really excited for us to talk about the things that you're doing within your discipline and how you're applying that to the community that you're building here and just in general.
Okay. Yeah. No, I love talking about that stuff. So happy to
So
do it.
let's started right. Let's get started with how with where you got started with games. I think that's very important.
Okay. So you like want to know like how I got started playing video games and stuff, just in general?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 5 years old, I got a Sega Genesis for Christmas, and Santa brought me a Sega Genesis, and it was the greatest thing ever. I played Sonic 2 more times than I probably could ever count, and I never looked back from there. I got a Nintendo 64 when I was in seventh grade, or when I was in seventh grade when I was 7, and I played Mario 64 and all that fun stuff. And then I got a GameCube when I was 11 for Christmas, and that I still contend is the best Christmas I ever had because I desperately wanted a GameCube. And then just kind of never looked back from there. My parents always thought that I would grow out of it, and they thought that like, okay, yeah, so he plays video games now, but at some point it won't be a part of his life. And I used to say that like I was going to be a video game designer, and that I was going to do something with video games. But then when I went to college, I majored in advertising and then actually switched over. But I was always playing video games while I was in college. So like World of Warcraft literally got me through my freshman year of college. I was like severely depressed my freshman year of college, and Azeroth was about the only place that I felt comfortable and at home. And so I could still hang out with my friends in Azeroth. So that's what I did. And I've just continued to play video games constantly. When I was in my doctoral program, I had a Destiny raid group that I would run with every Saturday, and that actually had enough of an impact on me that in my dissertation acknowledgments, I have my Destiny raid group shouted out. So, like, if you find my dissertation published in the archives of Virginia Tech, you will see a nod to my Destiny raid group. That's how much of an impact video games have had on me in my life.
Wow. So then as you said, you struggled with depression yourself, and you really
Yep.
looked towards that raid group as as a coping mechanism. It sounds like. Do you feel like those experiences really shift? Really put together your passion for what you've done so far?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, video games have been, well, before I was a therapist or before I ever saw a therapist on my own, video games were my therapy by far. But video games have just always had that significant role. And so I knew when I got into mental health and when I got into doing therapy and starting to do research on my own, I knew that I wanted to somehow combine video gaming with what I was doing. So yeah, it absolutely drives it. It's why I actually created this channel, because the Twitch channel that I do now is kind of represents where I always hoped that this would go, in the sense that I get to play video games and interact with awesome people and talk about mental health all at the same time, which is, yeah, so I would say that's my love of video games and my love of mental health. Both are like, I'm hugely passionate about both. And so any chance I have to combine the two, I'm all for it.
And what was your thesis on? I don't know if you said.
Oh, my dissertation? Well, my dissertation actually had nothing to do with video games.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. No, my dissertation was about family therapy education. So, I mean, to some extent, that's like related to the stream in the sense that I have various nights in the week where I will teach like various lessons about mental health concepts, and I use some of what I've researched about meaningful education practices to do that. But my dissertation didn't have anything to do with video gaming. It was mostly a side project that I've now started moving into being my primary focus.
And does that include the papers that you've had published on the subject?
What do you mean?
Or so you shared with me a paper that was published earlier this year on video game use as a tool.
Yes. Yeah.
And so is that publication, was that shaped? I guess I'm curious how that came to be. I'm not really sure how publishing.
Oh no, yeah, no, that makes sense. So yeah, so that was actually that paper actually originally started as a assignment for a writing for publication course that I was in, and I got super into it and super passionate about it to the point that I felt like it should be publishable. So I put a lot of work into that. So it was a side project that I did. For those who don't know, the paper is about how to use video games, like use and like the types of video games a person plays as a tool to do an assessment of identity formation and social development as a therapist. And so one of the things that has always driven me crazy is that way more therapists don't know anything about video games than therapists who know stuff about video games. And I've always contended that gamers don't generally know where to turn when it comes to like talking about their gaming, or like sometimes gamers are afraid to talk about their gaming in therapy because they're worried that a therapist is literally just going to say like, okay, well, you play video games, cool, it's just the thing you do for fun and it's not really relevant, so why are we talking about it? And so I have always wanted to try and figure out a way to break down barriers just for therapists to be able to see video gaming as legitimate and saying a lot more about a person maybe than just this is something they do in their spare time. Because like I said, for me, it has always had a really significant role in my life. And if you tried to take video games away from me when I was in college, I mean, you would have ruined my life, really. Mm-hmm. And you would have ruined my connection to my friends, and it would have been really bad. My depression would have got so much worse. So that paper came out of a place of wanting other therapists to have some idea of the importance of video games from the perspective of me, a person who's a therapist and plays games.
Absolutely. And I was really curious what you... because like you said, there are a lot of mischaracterizations and misunderstandings about people who play and enjoy video games. Mm-hmm. And one of them is that, and it's hilarious to me, that people who play video games are automatically introverted and very antisocial.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially with games like World of Warcraft, which has been around for much more than a decade.
14 years. Yep.
So I feel like that's patently false. Can you speak a little bit on the reality of that?
Yeah, so, oh man, I love that question a lot. So you probably knew I was going to like that question. So so here's the thing. It's like when people are playing video games, and I'm sure that the people who are gamers that are going to listen to this and who are watching my stream as we're talking about this would agree, like just because a person might be introverted in real life, they could be the most social person ever in an online video game. Like I know for me, like well, I've sort of come out of my introverted shell, but back when I was in high school and in college, I was pretty introverted. But if you'd have seen me online in like my guild or, running a raid group, I was as social as it gets. Like I was trying to coordinate raids. I was trying to be like a part of, like World of Warcraft raids and dungeons and stuff. And like there was such a huge social aspect to playing games for me where I felt way more comfortable. Like I could interact, like sure, people were strangers, but I formed some really meaningful relationships online. And they were relationships that had maybe a little bit less pressure on them. And there was already a commonality of being able to play games together. And like that shared interest already made it inherently easier for me to interact with people. And so like there are so many gamers that might in real life look like they don't interact well with people or they're relatively introverted, but then you put them in a game context or even watching streamers and all of a sudden they're really social and they're really out there and they're talking and they're interacting and they're getting reinforcement from others that they're worthy of being talked to and that they're interesting. And so there's just so much more that meets the eye. So if you look at it as, okay, so this person's sitting here staring at a screen with their mouth open and that's all I see, but you don't see that there's, game chat going on or that the person's talking into their headset or that they're doing call outs. Like I remember in Halo doing call outs and coordinating all the tactics of that. And there's just so much social interaction that goes on in video games that I think non-gamers don't quite understand because the only representation they generally see online is, some guy sitting with a controller just mashing the buttons and drooling all over himself.
And I know that I was curious if you've employed any of those tools from that paper in your own line of work. And I don't know if you can talk on that at all, because I know.
Yeah, so no, I can. So I can speak really generally about how it's impacted. I am sought out frequently because of the fact that I advertise that I work with gamers in therapy. So I get a lot of parents who call me wanting their kid to see me or their teenager to see me. And one of the things that I'm always doing if I have somebody in the room who plays video games is I am asking them about the video games they play. And I'm asking more than just like, what games do you like? Even though that's a really important question. I'm asking like, how often do you play? Why do you play? What is so deeply important to you about your video games, and what should I know about your characters? Because I think, the characters that people create in their video games more than anything else can really be indicative of traits that they either like about themselves or that they wish they had. So, if I'll use me as an example so that I don't have to talk specifically about a client, but this could apply to a client at some point. Like, for me, if you saw all of the characters that I ever created in RPGs when I was in high school and when I was in college, what you would see are like really big, bulky warrior classes. Like, I'm always like the tank. And if you saw me in real life, I'm 140 pounds and I'm about as scrawny as it gets. And so it was because I always wanted to be bigger. Like, I always had kind of body image issues when I was in high school about how thin I was and always wanted to be, bigger and more muscular. Well, I could be that in video games. And that really helped boost my confidence. And so, like, that tells me a little bit of something about myself, that, like, that's something that I wish I had. But then there were other traits that I would put into my characters that were traits I like about myself. Like, I'm pretty assertive. I'm pretty charismatic. So I always like to make characters that can sweet talk people and all that stuff. So that's one instance. Another thing is that video games provide, and I'm actually currently in the process of writing a paper with some colleagues about this, that video games are really a rich environment for people to be able to explore various aspects of their identity, and I'm talking in this context about like gender identity or sexual orientation. You know, there are games like Pokemon or Harvest Moon or Animal Crossing where you can create characters that are not binary. You can create, you know, male characters that can wear female clothes, that sort of thing.
In Stardew Valley, you can marry any bachelor or bachelorette.
There you go, right? In Mass Effect, you can romance Garrus or Tally. So, like, there are ways that video games provide a safer holding environment for a person to explore their identity that they may not be able to do in real life because it's just not safe to do that. And so if I'm adept at talking about video games and talking about the characters that a person's creating, it might help me have an understanding of maybe what they're going through in terms of trying to formulate and solidify their identity. So those are just some of the ways that I might use video games when working with people. I've also played video games in session with clients before, because sometimes it's a really good way to preoccupy a person's mind so that they can get into maybe some of the deeper stuff. I've certainly had experience with that. Sometimes it's just a nice way to join with a client because they know that I have a common interest with video games. I have actually Destiny Mega Blocks in my office so that people who play video games kind of see that I like Destiny and that I'm into that. So there's all sorts of ways that I've integrated video games into the work that I do, and they really, I think, help me from an assessment standpoint. Not just of assessing, this thing that a person spends so much time on, but why they're spending so much time on it. Are they escaping from reality? Do they feel a sense of belonging there? Are there skills that they're learning in video games that they may not have the opportunity to learn in real life? And then eventually I'm trying to help translate some of those skills into real life.
And you said that parents have sought you out because they know that you work with gamers. Have you ever had parents be uncomfortable with the fact that you play video games? Like they may come to you thinking you're going to help, quote unquote, cure their kid or whatever it is that, maybe they don't
make them stop playing. That's
exactly.
The number one request I get.
So I'm just curious if you've had parents that are like, oh, you condone the use of playing video games in this context? No.
Yeah. So I am very open about that up front. I will tell people over the phone, I'm a gamer myself. And part of the reason that I work with it is because I have more of a nuanced understanding of gaming that informs the work that I do. So I will say, I still ultimately want, your kid to be healthy, and I want to be able to facilitate, whatever parental boundaries the parents might want to have, whether they want to, create a sense of here's how often you're allowed to play. But I do tell parents that I am also going to hold them accountable to understanding the games that their kids play and why they're playing them. And I will generally use that as an opportunity to psychoeducate parents about the role that video games can have in the family and for the person, and that there's probably a lot more going on than just this is a thing that I want to do for fun.
And is there I'm sure you've had the conversation so many times, how to, it's almost formulaic when you're talking to, people who don't really understand video games. Mm-hmm. Is there a point that once you get it across, generally people are like, oh, I understand now? Or is it or is it very varied the way that people take to understanding the importance of video games outside of their fun?
So I think it does vary, but with that said, I think sometimes once people really understand the role and take the time to maybe sit down and have so I'm talking about parents in this context, but have their kids show them the video game and explain some of the nuance. Sometimes parents don't understand the games their kids are playing because kids won't even share it. And so I think if a parent is curious about it, and I can sometimes facilitate that process. So if my parents would have seen my freshman year of college, if they would have, and they do know this because I told them and they were open to it, but saying this is literally getting me through depression right now. This is how I'm able to get up and go to class in the morning, because this is what I have to look forward to, and this is kind of keeping me fulfilled and stopping me from feeling like I'm just immensely lonely in a context where I'm not being what I thought I was going to be when I got here. And sometimes I think like having just the insight into that is hugely important. So if a parent hears a kid say, I play a lot of video games with my friends in my room because I'm sick and tired of hearing you and dad fight all the time. Mm-hmm. It's my way to get away from that, because I can actually control this, and I can't control what's happening in the other parts of my life. I think that engages a level of empathy from people, and that can sometimes give them some perspective. But I always tell parents that, like, you really need to sit down with your kids and understand what they're playing and why they're playing it and what it means to them.
And so do you maybe have any advice for gamers that are struggling with mental health in a way that they can maybe try and connect with somebody? Maybe it's not their parents, but just somebody that they trust about what's going on, maybe?
That's a really good question. I think for one, being able to talk about it in the first place is really important. And so, part of why I created my stream is to give gamers a place to be able to talk about. I'm not saying to everybody, come to my stream, but like having a place to be able to even talk about it openly and not be met with stigma and shame, I think is really important for one. Now, if I'm talking to a person in isolation about that, I'm saying like having the level of compassion for yourself is really important just in general. But if people around you don't seem to understand your gaming and you feel really connected to maybe people you're playing games with, or even if you're on like forums talking about games or whatnot, not that people are going to be able to talk to you about your mental health per se, but they might be able to support you in saying something like, hey, you should really talk to a therapist about that. You should really find somebody, a professional you can talk to who is versed in video games and knows how to talk about video games. So I think really gamers who are struggling with their mental health and want somebody to talk to and maybe can't find that support in their families and friends, find a therapist like me who plays video games and advertises that they work with gamers and that they understand video gaming, and maybe give that a shot if you have the means to do it. But I think finding a sense of community and people who aren't going to shame you for your video game use and maybe like the role that it's playing in helping with your mental health, I think that that's probably a good place to start. I feel like I was kind of all over the place in that answer. So if you want me to clarify,
that's good though. I was just asking generally. And I thought it was a good answer, not all over the place. But and I do, for the sake of sharing, I do feel the need to share an experience of my own that that was true for me personally. Mm-hmm. I've been playing games my whole life, and I've been on the internet for most of that as well. And when I was 13, my dad passed away. He was very sick my whole life. Okay. And for me, I had a community of people on a Dragon Ball Z web-based MMO that I had gotten very close to, in the cool. Years that I'd been playing. And they were the people that I sought comfort from, that I felt like I could be honest about, how I was feeling in a way that I couldn't share with my family. Mm-hmm. And I can't thank all of those people. No. And I'm still friends with so many of them. And that was, that was 10 years ago now. Yeah. More than 10 years. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think there are so many people out there that have that experience. That gaming and just that sense of community, right? Gamers are some of the best people out there in terms of being able to form community. And I think being able to find that in gaming is so essential. And so if somebody would have told you can't play that anymore, like stop, you're playing too much. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I know for me, freshman year, that would have been just an absolute disaster. I don't want to speak for you, but man.
I was on the precipice of disaster, and that's what kept me from there. So, And I was really curious about your colleagues, in your discipline, people that other people that you work close to, how they take your approach, have taken the tools that you've provided, and really if they've argued with you on it or agree.
um, so I don't get argued with very much, but I think that's because I've gotten very good at being able to state my side of things, and I tend to try to see the whole picture when I'm talking with people about it. So I haven't had too many arguments with people. Most of the engagements that I have around it are with people like, with therapists that maybe have no experience with video games at all, and they will say to me that it just scares the hell out of them to even try and ask questions about it because they're worried that they're going to look like idiots in front of a gamer. And what I always say in those instances is, you don't look like an idiot if you're being curious about something that is a huge deal for somebody. Like, let a gamer tell you what the gaming means to them. Like, you don't have to know what the 25 kill streak is in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 to be able to understand how important Call of Duty is to the gamer, in the sense of like having, being able to play as a team and have something to work towards. But I have had people that have read that article. It's so interesting that you ask about that, because actually earlier this week I had a colleague ask if they could meet with me for an hour to talk about the paper, because they had read it and they're a gamer themselves, and they were just like, they were so glad to see that it was written up, and they wanted to talk to me about it and kind of poke my brain and get my thoughts about like, using video games as an assessment tool. I think for the most part, the response that I've gotten from people is that they think it's really cool, but it scares them because they don't feel like they know enough. Because by now there are so many people that play video games that every therapist is going to have a gamer on their caseload at some point. And not that you have to zoom in on the games as being the primary focus, but it's certainly, I know for a lot of gamers, it's a really important part of their life. And so I think being afraid to ask about something that's a really important part of somebody's life, or not knowing how to ask about it, is a real bummer. And like, if I had a therapist that didn't understand how big of a deal video games are to me, I'm finding another therapist.
You're shopping around.
Yeah, it is absolutely right. I am absolutely shopping around, because I'm not about to have somebody say, well, have you thought about playing less video games as the very first piece of interaction to that? Because I would be very quick to say that is not the problem.
Absolutely. Pardon me. And this is more general, so to kind of move away a little bit more generally.
Okay.
There's been a pretty big conversation. I mean, and it's been going on for a while, but especially in the last year or so, around mental health in video games, and kind of assigning blame to video games in events of tragedy, like mass shootings or school shootings.
Yep.
And I know the people who are probably listening to this show, understand the nuance, and there's more nuance to the argument than that. But just like a lot of therapists that don't know how to approach looking at video games, I feel that's the same problem in this argument. And this may be a different question than you're expecting me to ask, but for people listening, is there anything any perspective that you can offer as a talking point for maybe people who do enjoy video games but don't know how to answer to that question, or that's the reason their parents don't like video games?
So the question being, I want to make sure that I give a good answer. So the question, like, if they're brought the question like,
well, video games are bad because they make, because people are violent as a result. They play video games and become violent.
Okay. So my gut reaction answer to that generally is that people have been doing really horrible shit before video games even came around. Like,
Colin did not play Call of Duty.
Right. Like, there are plenty of people that have done really violent, horrible things before video games were even mainstream and were even explicit enough to be an issue. So there's that, for one. Video games are so I'm going to give you maybe too nuanced of an answer, and then you can tell me to back it up and be more basic.
Okay.
So one of the things that happens, I think, with video games and why it's such an easy target is because of just simply the optics of it. So yes, there is a lot of violence in video games.
Mm-hmm.
And what we don't like, our brains don't like this, we don't like dissonance. And so our brains look for patterns and commonalities to be able to make sense of very complex things in simple ways. Mm-hmm. And so it's very easy to look at video games and see portrayals of violence and think, well, that must facilitate violence in real life, because it's just an easy association to make. It's a very quick association to make, and it's a very oversimplified association to make. So people who don't understand video games at all, and the only representation of video games they see is they're these, big, awful, violent, bloody, gory things, that's a very short leap to make cognitively. And so people will make that leap. And so what you can do, and I know this is difficult in this current political climate, is go to the research. And there's a lot of recent research that has shown that while there might be some tendencies towards aggression for people who play violent video games, that deviation of aggression is not really a standard deviation that we would consider to be significant. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of research out there, like a lot of the research that is out there is on very targeted populations using very targeted games, and it doesn't really cover a broad spectrum. And so we don't actually, I would make the argument, as somebody who kind of consumes the research as often as I can, that we don't know whether it actually affects it. It's troubling when we see, like, people who engage in mass shootings or school shootings that did play video games, but they also did a lot of other things that people might have in common. And I would say that the most blatant one is they had access to a gun. And so, like, I mean, I apologize if I'm getting maybe a little political here, but, like, people try to politicize video gaming, and I really think that that's dangerous, because there are infinitely more people who play violent video games constantly that would never even imagine picking up a gun and going into their school and shooting people. Mm-hmm. And so you have to look at it as, like, it's sort of like the idea that people are more afraid of flying than they are driving, even though you're way more likely to be killed driving than you are flying. But the only time you ever hear about flying is when a plane crashes at once in a blue moon, and people think that planes are more dangerous. And so it's the same thing. You only ever hear about video games when it's brought up as a person who engaged in a shooting played video games. You don't hear about, people doing wonderful work out there who also play video games. You don't hear about people who have solved really complex problems who attribute their success in doing that to the fact that they play video games. Like, you don't see that kind of representation with video games. And so I think that's the problem, is, like, we don't have a well-rounded representation out there in the mass media of video games. And that's why I'm, like, on this crusade with this stream and, like, with trying to push that information out there, because I think, and with that article that I wrote that was published this year, and with the article that I'll hopefully have published by the end of this year about, like, facilitating the coming out process for LGBTQA gamers, like, is to have that kind of representation out in the literature. Because right now, if you try and do a Google Scholar search for what literature is out there, you're going to just see the connection between violence, because that's what's sexy, that's what gets the research dollars, that's what gets grants. But I really do think we need to spend time trying to get the whole picture, so that we do have evidence to put out there for people, and that we can make more nuanced arguments, rather than just making this oversimplified connection to video games.
Absolutely. I mean, and you brought up your stream and I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth, because we've talked about it a little bit, but you have sessions that you run. I'm not sure if it's every day, but every often, and it seems like they're themed. You bring on guests. Can you talk about what it is that you're doing, and really what the experience has been like so far?
I would love to. So this is huge passion project of mine that I do in my spare time. It feels like a second job sometimes, but it's all enveloped in my spare time. So I created this channel. I'll give you a little bit of the history of how this got formulated. There are many streamers who are big, like Ninja and like Dr. Lupo and a few others, that have had issues with viewers who try to use them as therapists. So they feel a sense of connection to the streamer, which I think many of us might say that we feel a certain sense of connection to some streamers. And so what they would do is they would enter the chat and start talking about their mental health and saying like, "Hey, Ninja, like I've been feeling suicidal lately. What do I do?" And like Ninja has to be like, "Yo, I'm not a mental health professional. Like I can't help you with that. Like you need to talk to a therapist." And so I saw that and I thought like, well, hey, like I'm a therapist. I can't do therapy on a stream, but I could certainly point somebody in the right direction and maybe talk to them about what to expect. And so that was kind of an interesting idea for me. I was like, so that would be interesting if like, if I was seen by Dr. Lupo or Ninja or Dr. Disrespect or something, and somebody in their chat was talking about their mental health and they didn't know what to do, rather than saying, I don't know what to do, go find a therapist, they could be like, hey, go talk to Dr. Mick. Because that dude is a therapist and he's on Twitch, and that's an environment where you feel a lot more comfortable, and he plays video games while he does it, so it's a little bit more approachable and you can do it on your own terms, that sort of thing. So I was like, you know what, like I'm going to create a stream where I bill it as you get to play games or watch games, I guess, with me and talk to me about mental health. And get general mental health information and resources. And I see the stream as sort of bridging the gap between not having any access and being totally afraid to go into therapy and to talk about mental health and to not have a place to do it, to empowering people to feel like they can take charge of their mental health and maybe go find a therapist and have the resources and information from me to know how to do that in a way that's going to be effective for them. So yes, I do, every Monday, I do a mental health topic that my community votes on. 2 weeks ago, it was what's a first session like? And so I talked about how to find a therapist and then what to expect in a first therapy session. And then this week, actually Monday night, I talked about suicide assessment and what happens in therapy when a client talks about suicide and how a therapist does a suicide assessment, to kind of like raise awareness around that and so that people know what that's like and what to expect. And
maybe it's a little bit less scary if it's something they need.
Exactly right. Like, one of the number one things that prevents people from calling suicide hotlines is because they have no idea what the person on the other end is going to say when they pick up the phone. And they worry that their therapist is immediately going to call the police and throw them in a mental institution. And that is just like so not true. And so I'm trying to kind of help people have maybe that more realistic view and maybe a more empowered view about going to therapy. And, I dress casually on stream. I wear my hat backwards. Those of you who are watching the stream can see it. I try to break down the stigma and expectations that people have for therapists, because we're not all scary. And some of us do play video games and some of us do care about video games. Not that that's the only thing I have to talk about, but I just see the stream as being a place where people can have a sense of community. And I will say that my community is amazing and incredibly supportive of each other. And I have been just so floored really by how amazing everybody is and how supportive they are of each other. It's truly incredible. But I have gotten feedback from people, from viewers that have said to me things like, I finally felt empowered to go see a therapist because of your stream. Something you said to me, I was able to, break through a constraint that I had with the therapist I'm currently seeing, and I felt more comfortable doing this and it was successful. Or I was able to talk to a friend about this thing because you gave me I felt empowered by the stream to be able to go do that. Like, I've gotten a lot of feedback about that so far, and that has been really exciting for me because, again, that's my goal. Like, if I help people feel more comfortable finding a therapist and talking about their mental health, and they're able to go find somebody that they can talk to, and they feel better, and their mental health is in a better place as a result, I've done my job. And, if it gets to a point with this stream where I am well known enough that Ninja and Dr. Lupo and all the wonderful streamers that are out there know that I exist and say, hey, go talk to Dr. Mick because he's a real therapist and he can help figure it out for you, then that would be wonderful. But that's really what the spirit of this stream is about. And so I do stream every night. Every once in a while I won't because I'm exhausted because I stream at the most inconvenient hours possible, and I do have a full-time job that I have to attend to and put my all into. But this stream is an absolute passion project of mine. It marries my two favorite things, video games and mental health.
And at what time do you typically stream at in the evenings?
I stream every night at 11:30 p.m. Central Time, and I usually go until usually between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. I generally stop when I can only attend to the game I'm playing or the chat. Like
when you can't.
Once I can't do both, then I sign off. But for the most part, I mean, I like right now as you and I are talking, because I know you'll have people listening to the podcast that haven't seen my stream.
I've been like sitting here watching you play.
Yeah, I'm literally playing Destiny Strikes right now while we're talking. And that's kind of how it goes. And it's really hard. So like I see everybody chatting right now in my in my chat box. Me having to attend to that on top of doing this interview and playing Destiny is a little bit too much, but generally what it looks like is me having a constant dialogue with everybody in the chat while I'm playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very clear that your community cares a lot about you and is really, I mean, they got on super quick.
I know, and they had no idea I was coming on today. They had no idea I was coming on at 4:30 this afternoon.
And I really appreciate how candid they are. I mean, they've been talking in the chat, answering questions alongside you. And if awesome. I'm not sure if you are able to share the VOD with me from our interview, but I would love to share it with my patrons so that
I sure can.
Yeah, so that my patrons can see, kind of get an idea of what your stream is like. And where can people find you at in social media?
So I am the primary one that I use is Twitter right now. They can find me at Dr. Mick Live. Mm-hmm. And I'm also on YouTube. I'm not able to generate one of those like cool links that's memorable, but if you search,
me either.
If you search Dr. Mick, I'm like maybe the third user that pops up. So you can find me on YouTube. I'm on Facebook too, but that's not fully formulated enough, so I'm not going to direct people there. But really, the best place to get a hold of me is in my Discord server, which you can find at my twitch.tv /Dr_Mick, or I also have it linked in my Twitter. I also have a website, which is drmick.live.
And I'll have links to all of that stuff in the show notes for the episode on my website as well. And was there anything else that I didn't ask about? Because I know it's a really broad topic, or anything that you wanted to talk about specifically before we wrap up? It's a very open-ended question, but I always like to make sure.
And I was actually I was worried you were going to ask me this, because I was going to be like, oh crap, I don't know if I'm prepared for this question. So let's see, I've talked about a lot of stuff. I think video games are one of the most incredible mediums for being able to gain access into who a person is and who they can be. And I really hope that over time we can destigmatize video game use to a point that people who don't play them can see that. Video games have become so mainstream and so nuanced and so complex that it really does give people a safe place to explore who they are and to build relationships and to escape, but also build skills that they can use in real life. And if you take that away from people and you try to legislate against it, I think you're causing a lot of harm. And so I think therapists need to understand that. Therapists need to know how big of a deal video games can be for a person. And I think the general population needs to know that. And I really hope that people find it in themselves to be more curious about gamers and the roles that their video games are playing, and to take the mental health of gamers seriously, and to know that there's a very good chance that video games are facilitating some level of mental health for the gamer. I guess I just want to reiterate the importance of that like there is just such a richness to video games and the way that people engage with them that just gives us so much information. And with where stuff's going with like virtual reality and all that cool stuff, like there's just so many awesome things that can happen for gamers down the line and for non-gamers alike. So if there was a parting thing that I would say, it's that. And that it is okay to seek help, that it is okay to try and find a therapist who knows how to talk about video games and who can listen to your experience, that you should shop around for a therapist that understands it if gaming is an important part of your identity, and that we are out there. And that if you want resources, you now know where to find me.
Absolutely. And like I said, I will be sharing links to your website, your social media, your Twitch, everything. So cool. Anybody who's interested or just needs to talk to you can find you. And I really appreciate your time, Dr. Mick, and your split attention. I don't know how I can barely like watch you play and like maintain my train of thought because I watch a lot of streams and I actually watch a lot of Destiny. And so there were a couple moments where I was like, oh, I need to be paying attention a little bit more than I am right now.
You know what's funny is that is actually, of all the compliments I get, that has actually been the one that I hear the most. Is everybody's like, I don't know how you talk about this stuff while you're like, how can you talk about suicide assessment while you're running Destiny strikes and playing in the Crucible? And it's, I don't know. So I think it's just because of the lifetime of playing games and being able to multitask and all that stuff. But I want to say to you that I really appreciate that you brought me on. I actually really admire your podcast, and you've had some really awesome people on.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing, and so it was really an honor when you reached out to me for you to ask me to be interviewed. So I will make sure that my people know how to get a hold of you as well, and to listen to your podcast, because it's been great. And if you ever want to bring me on again, I would be more than happy to do it.
Absolutely. And if you ever think of anything that you feel would be a good topic for an episode, if something happens and you feel like, you have something to say on the topic, don't hesitate to let me know.
I can do that
because I'm always, sure. I think it's important. I think we're both trying to just reach out to the community and expand perspectives in a way. So even if people aren't struggling with mental health, even if they're lucky enough to not be struggling with mental health, watching your stream can be really beneficial in understanding and empathizing with people that they love, loved ones who may too. So,
absolutely. And you get to learn stuff too, because I teach. I was teaching about schemas and all sorts of fun stuff yesterday. So it's more than just chatting about individuals. Like I talk about concepts and fun stuff like that too. So if you ever want to just learn for free, you can come join me.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna fade out here, but I did want.
Okay.
So are you doing the extra live stream on November 3rd?
I'm not. And actually, what day is that? Because
it's a Saturday.
So it's a Saturday. So
you can still sign up. It's like open registration type thing.
It's where you play for 24 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, you play from 8 to 8. So you'll start at 8 a.m. on November 3rd and go till 8 a.m. on the next day. So, it's a lot of fun. It
sounds awesome. I've actually signed up for Extra Life. Like I did sign up for it, but not the actual 24-hour thing. Mm-hmm. I would love to do it, but I got to talk to my fiance about whether she's cool with me doing that.
You got a couple weeks to decide. And if you do, I don't know if we play any of the same games or if we overlap on anything, but if you end up doing it and you wanted to play something together on stream or whatever, I'm definitely down.
That would be awesome. We'll have 24 hours to do it, right? So
last year, I probably spent it was from 3 a.m. No, it was probably from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. I played Hearthstone half asleep.
Oh my God,
the last remaining 4 hours. But it's a lot of fun.
That would be fun. I would like to do it. So I will actually I will entertain the idea of doing it, and I'll bring it up with the fiance, and we'll see what she says about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Dr. Mick. Ryan, I don't know. I feel it's like
either
I never
one
know what
doesn't
to call.
matter to me. Yep, doesn't matter to me.
But I can call you Ryan Earl in the in my intro when I'm introducing you. Or
You can if you like. I would probably prefer you just call me Dr. Mick.
okay. Sorry if I just like. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, I have my articles posted in my Discord. I'm sure by now, people who have frequented the chat know what my real name is.
Well, it's a secret now, so everybody just keep it on the low. We shared this moment together.
Yeah, no,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. But Dr. Mick, it's just easier from like the online persona perspective to keep it consistent. So, but I don't care that you said it. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Okay. Oh my god.
It's all good.
Well, my name is Katy Barber. Everybody can
There we
find
go.
me.
It's out there. All right. There we go. We're even now.
Right. I mean, if you search for my show if you go far enough in the Google results, you find my LinkedIn profile. So it's like whatever. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Thank you again, Dr. Mick. I really appreciate it. And I'll let you know, I'm going to be releasing it at some point. I probably hope I'm gunning for Friday, but it may be Saturday, just depending on work.
No problem.
And I'll reverse doxed. It's okay. Dox me instead. I feel bad.
It's all good. It's all good.
Pity dox.
We're still cool. I'll still play with you if I do the 24-hour stream. All right.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely,
like I said,
and good luck with your stream later on this evening too.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one. What's up, everybody? Oh my god. All right, so now I got to figure out who I got in here. I'm sorry that I have basically not acknowledged you the entire time that I've been on stream, but I hope you all enjoyed that. Katy's awesome. Her podcast is fabulous. That's her... Oh boy, I hope that's her website. Nope, it's not. Holy crap, don't go to that. Don't go to that website. It is... that. There we go. Yeah, don't go to katycakes.com. It's not going to go anywhere, luckily. It's not porn or anything, but like... all right, who do I got? What's up, Lowbro? Okay, so I got Lowbro and Vixen and K-Girl and that guy and Krabby and Kramer. Kramer, by the way, I saw the subs you gifted. That was very generous of you. You're awesome. Coder and Matt and K-Girl and Kaladnar and Lunar Lunacy. Bron, are you in here? You gonna speak up for the lurkers? Summerfrost, what's up? Have a great time at work. Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting to see it go live at 4:30 this afternoon, huh? Pretty cool. Called out. I know, right? That was fun. Katy actually reached out to me when I did my Reddit AMA, and we were finally able to get coordinated there and to be able to do that stream or that interview. And she was generous enough to let me stream with her talking to me. So that was a lot of fun for me to do. She does a lot of good work with talking about video games and expanding people's perspectives on it. And she's had some really awesome people come on her podcast, so you really should check her out and give her some listens, because she certainly deserves it. Lowbro, by the way, I saw your comment about how you've learned a lot here, and that means a lot to me to hear. I'm glad, and I'm glad that you stopped by again. I'm glad that all of you are here. Lowbro, are you in San Jose yet? Like, are you ready for TwitchCon? Look at me calling everybody out. Just naming names today. See, who else do I got in here? I want to make sure I say hello to everybody. I feel bad if I don't say hello to everybody. What's up, work? And Latuda, what's up? Vixen. Man, so many cool people in here. You voted today. Hey, good job. Kudos, bonus points to all of you who vote. You should absolutely vote. This is the most important election you will ever vote in, except for the one that's going to come up here in 2020. But like, totally vote. Get out there, register, do all of it. If you don't know who to vote for, talk to a friend that you trust. Although hopefully it's obvious who you should vote for. Awesome, low bro. That's cool. I've always wanted to go to San Jose. Never been there. And what's up, Gasso? Yeah, if you don't know who to vote for, ask Gasso. Head of the marketing department. Mother, I saw you in here too. So lovely to see your name. Because I know I haven't seen it in a while, and I know it's because I stream at horrible hours for you. Dr. Mick 2020. Can you imagine? I'll do all my campaign debates on Twitch. Run for office. Destigmatizing politics. One therapy stream at a time. I don't think I'm old enough yet. What, a 28-year-old can't run for president? With no political experience? See, here's the thing. I shouldn't be running for president. I have no political experience. Oh, but you will be.
For your health.
Damn, Kramer. You are one hell of a generous person. And it is so awesome of you to be gifting subs. Like, holy crap. Thank you for the... Yes! Sub goal! Oh, man. Well, you are a big part of how I was able to make that, Kramer. So I really appreciate that. It really is incredibly generous of you to do that. And I'm sure that the people that you are gifting really appreciate it. That's a good point, Gasso. That is true. I do have just look at that follower goal and sub goal for the month. I mean, well, we demolished the follower goal for the month, but man, we hit the sub goal. That's so awesome. Y'all are the best. Y'all are so sweet to me. Like, seriously, like, as much as you like talking to me and seeing me, I love talking and seeing all of you. And to be able to do it while the sun's still out, oh my god, and while this guy's chasing me, is wonderful. You are special, that guy. You're all special. You all are unique. You all have unique usernames. You are all your own people. Yeah. Yes, LaCroix's all around. You know what? Cheers to everybody for being as amazing as you are. Helping me hit the target as I die. Another dead soldier over here by Coconut Man. Coconut Man would like to express its deepest gratitude to all who have subscribed and followed and made the last month an amazing time for Dr. Mick. Dr. Mick very much believes in what he does, but he's super happy to see so many who also believe in what he does. You all rock, and you are all Coconut Man approved. Coconut Man abides. Yeah, can you imagine? Mick and Coconut Man 2020. I love it. Oh, man. He is a beacon indeed. So for everybody to know, because I actually, just as a heads up, I do actually have to sign off pretty soon here. But I will be back on at 7 o'clock Central Time. But I will not be on my stream. I will actually be on Anxiety's stream. So I want to give her a quick shout out. I'm going to be joining Anxiety at 7 o'clock, and she's going to be asking me frequently asked questions that I'm asked as a therapist about therapy and about what it's like to be a therapist. And I will be hosting her, Coder, so if you want to watch her through my channel, you totally can. But I'm going to be joining her. I'm not sure how long it'll go for. I'm guessing probably an hour to an hour and a half. But we're going to be talking with her. She does really awesome work, and she is a huge mental health advocate, and I really like and endorse her channel. My auto host her. But she's going to be having me on her show, and then I made an executive decision. I will be doing the stream at normal time at 11:30. So y'all are going to get just a bunch of me tonight. You should coconut LaCroix. You know what, Kramer? Believe it or not, I've never actually had coconut LaCroix. So I don't know how good it is. So I don't know if I can endorse it yet. I'm so stuck on the key lime. It's just fabulous. The peach pear was kind of meh. I wasn't a big fan of the peach pear, so I went back to the key lime. But yes, I will be hosting Anxiety at 7 o'clock. So mango is good. The cran raspberry is my go-to as the secondary. Did I get? Oh yeah, it was kind of cool that I got that. What else did I get? By the way, I don't remember who it was, but somebody had asked me if there was like a tractor beam in this game, and the tractor beam is Cold Heart. So it is a thing. Hey, glad you stopped by, Kaladnar, for it. It was a pleasant surprise. Like I said, I was really glad she let me stream while we were talking. It was pretty cool of her. What was that? Kazik, what's up? Do you have a way to contact you outside of Twitch via email? Kazik, you can email me. Here, go. Go to that website and go to the contact page, and it will have the information for how to contact me outside of the stream, Kazik. Yeah, Kazik, I'm actually aware of that. I thought I saw something the other night. Somebody posted a link that it got overturned. Like it turned out that like LaCroix won the lawsuit or something like that. Yeah, there was something about how like there was like cockroach. Wait a minute, what? Strikes completed. Y'all just saw me complete 3 strikes, right? Like, am I crazy right now? Like, how did this not count any of it? Oh, using the same light element as a team member? Really? Yikes. What's up, Anxiety? I can't wait to hang out with you in a little while. I'm super pumped about it. I was just telling everybody that I'm going to be on it. And that everybody's going to have a chance to watch you. I was just doing a little bonus stream because I got interviewed for a podcast. And she was generous enough to let me stream while we did it. So with that said, I actually have some like not work related stuff, but I got some stuff that I got to do so that I am fully prepared for Anxiety's stream and for kind of everything else that I got to do tonight. So I got to go. I just wanted to hop on so that all of you could bear witness to the Kakebytes stream. By all means, Kazik. So I'm going to sign off for a little while, but like I said, at 7 o'clock Central Time, go there, and Anxiety's going to have me on her stream. So it's not going to be a concurrent stream with mine. I'm going to be just hosting her while I'm on her stream. So in 1 hour and 15 minutes, that's right. Coming up, and you're about to actually go live, aren't you? Yeah, so if anybody wants to hop over to Anxiety's stream and watch her for her first hour before I come on, I totally recommend you do that. Again, she does really awesome work and she's really wonderful. So She deserves to have all of you in there. So, but yeah, totally looking forward to it. So hopefully I'll see all of you in an hour and 15 minutes when I go live. So, and Krabby, I actually will be. I made an executive decision. I'm going to be on tonight. I will be on at 11:30. So that's confirmed. So you don't have to worry. I'll be on normal time. We'll all hang out. Yeah, Coder, I said I made an executive decision that I was going to do it. So I will be on tonight. I'm feeling good. I got a lot of energy, and I have a feeling that when I'm talking to Anxiety, that's going to give me even more energy. So I'll be ready to go, ready and raring to go. So, all right. So even though it's the afternoon, I'm still going to say it before I go. You matter. Your experiences are valid, and don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. And I will catch you all shortly. Adios.